Hi, my name is Jennifer Smith and I'm with Kirkwood Community College. This session of the Kirkwood Baking and Pastry Skills series, we will focus on cutting, filling, and icing a perfectly smooth cake. I'm going to go over some of the tools that I use every day. I'm going to first start with my turntable. I recommend you have your turntable at a comfortable working height. For me, putting it on a styrofoam base works. You're going to need an extra bowl for your extra buttercream and your crumbs, a ruler, a level, which you can get at any hardware store, and this is why I have a level, and I like to make sure that my turntable is level so that when you cut your cake, you're going to have leveled slices. Okay. A bench scraper. This is a great bench scraper. This is from fatgirlcake.com. This is a great tool to have. Cake Boss bench scraper. You don't have to have Cake Boss, but I did get it on Amazon. It has a very nice, clean edge to it. And a painter's tool, which I got at Home Depot for $5, and this is very handy. A bread knife, any type of bread knife works great. 2 offset spatulas. It's always better to have 2 than 1. A 24-inch pastry bag, which you can get on Amazon, and a speed tip that you can get at Michael's or Hobby Lobby. A 12-inch bag with just a coupler, and you can get these bags anywhere. I'm working with a 9-inch cake, so I'm going to have my 9-inch board. A little bit of royal icing, and I'll show you why I use this. Freshly whipped Swiss meringue buttercream, and 2 wet cloths. So let's start with our first layer. So I'm going to take my ruler, and what I want to do is I want to figure out where I would like to cut. So I think maybe at about 1 inch would be good. I'm just going to make a little slice and another slice, and you want to go all the way around at 1 inch. Okay, so once you've done that, you want to find your little cut, and then you're going to make sure that your arm is steady, and you're just going to turn around, turn your turntable, and this should actually slice through very nicely, and it should stay where you originally had sliced it. There you are. So pretty even. Okay, let's go over that again. 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch, last one. Okay. Keep steady. And go all the way through. I like to have my cakes actually pretty cool, sometimes even frozen. That way there's a lot less cracking, it'll slice through better, you'll have less crumbs. Okay. Okay, so this is why I use royal icing. I'll show you right here. The royal icing helps with your board not moving everywhere. So you're just going to place it on there. Okay. Then you want to add a little bit of your buttercream on your board. And then we're going to add the bottom layer. Now this comes in handy for basically what we call this is damming. So I'm just going to go around with a layer of buttercream, and let's do 2 layers. And this also helps how much buttercream you're going to put. You want it to be level with your dam. Now I'm going to use the speed tip, and I'm just going to go around, squeeze with my hand, and turn. Okay. And then your spatula, and then you're just going to make this motion and turning as you're doing this. So you're going to have a very smooth layer. And you're going to make sure that you don't lift up. If you lift up, you might actually take some of your cake with you. And then this is what the extra bowl is for. Okay, so I'm going to take my second layer, place it on top. Okay. Now we're going to start trimming on the sides. We want at least a 1/2 inch, 1/2 to 1/4 inch from the beginning of your board to where your cake starts. This is so you'll have a really nice thick layer of buttercream between your board and your cake. Okay, so I'm just going to go around and cut around. And if you need to just check once in a while to see how much space you have there, that's okay. And when you're cutting, you want to make sure that you're keeping it as level, where sometimes we tend to go like this, and that also really affects how our cut, how we end up cutting our cake. Okay, so it's not completely round. You can see I have some cut marks, some square cut marks. That's okay, because I'm going to allow my board to be my guide for having a very smooth up and down cake. Okay, make sure you get all your crumbs out of the way. Okay, so I'm going to start with my speed tip for the top. And I usually always do my top first. So I'm going to go around, and I want to make sure that I leave kind of a lip hanging over the edge of the cake. And I will show you why in a few minutes. So I'm going to go around. The reason why I use the speed tip is because you can better gauge how much icing you're putting on your cake. Okay, so I'm going to just make this motion again, just go around, and don't worry that it's domed. That's fine because we're going to be fixing that later on. So it's looking a little rough right now, and that's okay. Okay. So what you're going to do with that lip that's hanging over is you're going to take the back of your offset spatula and just rub the lip against the cake. And this is going to create another little wall or dam around the top, and that's what you want. So I'm not going to crumb coat as of yet. You can crumb coat and just put a very thin layer and then put it in the fridge and then come back and then add your layer, add your second coat. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going just to add my first layer. So I'm going to need a little bit more buttercream. Okay, so I'm going to squeeze and I'm going to go around. And that was an air bubble. That is okay. And I'm going to just go around and fill this completely up. And I'm going to use my board as my guide for moving that around. So we have a really thick layer on this cake right now. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that motion that I did on top. Just make sure that this icing really adheres to the side of your cake. Okay, so there we go. And also I wanted to point out that I made a higher dam around the top of the cake, and that's going to help you when you decide to start leveling the top of your cake. Okay, so I'm going to start with my little bench scraper. I want to make sure that it is flat against your turntable. And I'm going to have this leaning, it's going to be towards me. So you're going to kind of just get rid of some of the excess as you're turning. Okay, and you're going to put your excess in your bowl, and you can use some of that, anything that doesn't have crumbs in it, of course. Okay, so what I'm doing also is I'm using my board as my guide. So I have this against my board and I'm just scraping towards me. Okay. Now, as you can see, what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if there's any areas that need more icing, basically. So that looks okay. That looks like it needs a little bit here. There's a gap. There's a gap there. So I'm looking for any gaps, basically. And this is the beginning of how you make a very smooth cake. Okay, so if you see any gaps, or if you wonder if there's any gaps, you just want to make sure to get rid of them. Just going to use my speed tip again and go over some spots. And then I'm just going to use that motion, making sure it adheres to the cake. Just going to go around a little bit more. Okay. And then I'm going to repeat this again. So you want to make sure, like I said, that your bench scraper or one of these tools is against your cake board and is flat on your turntable. Turn and move towards you. As you can see, this particular board has caused a little bit of ruffling effect. That's okay. We're going to be able to take that out. You will find that some cake boards do create that. Okay, let's check again. If it's not perfect, that's okay, because we're going to fix that as well. Okay, I'm going to start working on my top. So you're going to just gently slide into the cake, and you want to get rid of your excess as well. So slide in, scrape, slide, scrape. So what I'm going to do with this cake is I'm going to put it into the cooler for about 10 minutes, and then we will start making it a smooth cake from there. Welcome back. It's been about 10 minutes, and I actually put the cake in the freezer so it would chill really nicely. There's, a bunch of little dots here and some air bubbles, and I think my finger got right in there. But you know what? Since it's chilled, we're going to get rid of all that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my bench scraper and I'm going to set it on top of the turntable, and I'm going to just scrape. And I'm going to make sure that my bench scraper stays perfectly flat on the turntable. So as I'm doing this, I'm getting rid of any imperfections, and there will still be a few, but that's okay. So you're going to take your excess. So as you can see, I still have kind of a little dent in there, and my finger is right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of the extra buttercream and just spackle that a little bit. I'm also going to cover my finger mark. Okay. So while that is kind of firming up a little bit, I'm going to start on the top of my cake. And I'm just going to scrape very gently. And you want a smooth surface. Make sure that you don't dig in or anything like that. All you want to do is just gently move it towards you. And as I'm doing this, I'm also going to check to see if the top of my cake is level. And it isn't, it is not that level. So what I do is I just check to see if this side needs a little bit more icing. So I just smooth it over a little bit. And you can either add icing or you can scrape down whatever side is a little bit higher than the other. Okay. Seems like this side is definitely level. So at this point, what I would normally do is I would add some buttercream onto one side. I'm going to take my speed tip I'm just going to go around a very thin layer on the side that looks a little bit lower. And what I do is I get eye level. And then I'm just going to smooth. So what you want to do is you want to keep your spatula steady against your side. And you're just going to go around. If you make a little circle like that, that's okay. You can add a little bit more in the center there. And if it has any imperfections or it just doesn't look smooth enough, that's okay. You can always chill it again and smooth it out. We just want to make sure that your cake is level. Okay. And then as you can see, it's gone over on the sides too. That's okay as well. So instead of using my spatula, what I'm going to do is go back to my bench scraper. And I'm just going to lightly go around the cake. And once again, as earlier, you'll have a little bit of a lip coming up, and that's okay. You want to get rid of any excess, scrape. Okay. So I'm just going to go over very lightly. And I went a little too much there, and that is okay. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go around my sides once more. Okay. And then at this point, you can either go over the sides and get rid of a little bit of your little wall that comes up, or you can also put your cake in the cooler and go around again and then scrape on the sides. So for now, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to chill for another 5 minutes, and then we'll go back and do a final scrape of your cake to make it completely smooth. Welcome back. I've let this chill for another 10 minutes, and we're going to do our final scrape. Remember to keep your scraper flush against the turning table. And then I'm going to start with my top. I'm going to lightly drag it over the cake. Okay, now that looks pretty level to me. Okay, and one more. Just going to take my spatula and get rid of these little edges that pop up. If you're covering your cake with fondant, you don't have to worry about the edges too much. If you are just leaving it as a buttercream, normally you would probably have a border on the edge and no one's going to notice anything popping up. Okay, here we go. So you've got a smooth finish on your buttercream cake.